Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Skookum Session Bigfoot podcast. I know we haven't been on in quite a while due to different reasons, but the point is we're all back tonight. Got a good discussion coming your way. I'm here with, I'm looking at him right now, so I'll mention him first, Mr. Joe Vogel. Joe, how's it going? How you been?
Very well, thank you. Life is good.
Excellent, excellent. And we've got Mr. Gary Spikes Jr. Gary, what's going on?
I'm no C. Pretty good. Kind of in shock right now, but
yeah, me too. Me too. I was going to mention that in a minute here. Do a little dedication. We've got Gary's dad, Gary Spikes Sr. Senior, how you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Glad
Thanks
to be here
on.
as long as this thing lets me. It keeps kicking me out.
We've got not only Gary Sr., we've got our faithful Mr. John Schweitzer.
Hey.
John, what's going on?
Well, I've had changed my hairstyle like about 4 times since the last time we was on here, and 3 used cars. Yeah.
There you go. Good it's all about.
Oh, I'm
right?
good. I'm good. Everything's fine. Yeah.
Good.
Everybody's well.
And we've got Justin Decker. Justin, are you there?
I'm here, guys. You hear me?
We hear you, buddy.
Yeah. Loud and clear.
We were kind of worried about you.
All right.
Thought you forgot about us.
No, man, I've been waiting for you guys. Everything just kind of came through, but new phone, had to download Zoom to the new phone, so it took a second.
Gotcha. The only one we're waiting on, everybody, is Mr. Carter Bouchard, but he told me he would possibly be a little late, so he gave me the go ahead to kind of start without him, and then he'd hop on. Did I miss anybody? We got in myself, Jeremiah Fallon. There we go. That was the last name I forgot to mention. Yeah, who's that guy? Yeah. We just wanted to, I know everyone here, we're all in shock about Mr. Kerry Arnold's early, right. Getting called back to the better side, and we just kind of maybe dedicate this show to him. It's an awful tragedy.
absolutely.
He was a great guy, and it's a great loss, not only as a colleague, fellow researcher, and most importantly a friend, and that it's just an awful thing. But so guys, I know it's been a while, but tonight I figure I was thinking, trying to going over in my brain what we could talk about for topic tonight, maybe make it a little interesting. Is you hear a lot of stories about these things, the Sasquatches, they're in certain places for different seasons, and other places you'll hear about them not. They'll stick around the same area for all year round. Now, just for example, the ones on my main research area, they leave in November, come back in March, April. But I know other people around here, like the ones on the reservation, which I think are a different type, they stick around in that St. Lawrence Valley all year round. So, maybe we could go from there. Gary, what have your what have your experiences been on that? What's your opinion?
We've kind of had it both ways. Our research area down in southeastern Oklahoma, they seem to be in there all the time.
Okay.
But our family farm where Dad's at, they're usually in there, Dad, August to November, when they're there all the time, but they seem to ramp up like August to November.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe that's what it is, they just, like you said, they seem to ramp up for those few months.
I think a lot of it depends on the terrain, how big the group is, their food source. It'd be just like any other primitive people or predators. They would move within their range depending on their the flora and fauna.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder too about up here, how I said, winters get damn cold up here. You're talking 40 below zero, and that's cold whether you're a human, a Sasquatch, whatever. So that's a lot. You would think it'd be a little more difficult for them to get their hands on prey when it's that cold, a lot of deer freeze to death in the woods, so, maybe they go somewhere a little warmer. I've yet to, I don't think that's something I'll ever figure out, but they definitely are gone half the year and they're here the other half. So Senior, you pretty much go along with what Gary said about the ones you guys deal with.
That's the way it has been, but the last couple of years, they seem to come in earlier. They're here most of the summer now. And
Okay,
then leave out in the middle of the winter.
middle of the winter, around December,
Well,
November, December.
November, December.
Yep. Okay.
We think we know why.
Do you?
Yeah, Dad for what, 10 years, 11 years was
Yeah, they're 11, 12 years.
delivering food, and he would bring whenever the school for the school systems, and whenever they would reject food, that he'd
Yeah.
bring it home and put it in our burn pit.
Okay.
Well, what's the school seasons? And then when he
Exactly.
quit doing that, in between that and them changing the geographical, well, the neighbors to the north of us built a fence, but with him doing that, it changed their pattern. So it goes to show that they literally rely upon the patterns around them. They're that in tune with. So they lost a major food source. So they had to change their.
Especially when they're counting on it, they get
Absolutely.
used to it like that. It's definitely going to change things up for them. Switzer,
Yeah.
let's hear the thoughts, buddy.
Well, I'm going to be out this weekend going back to a place where I found some footprints, but I mean, you've
Recently?
seen, no. The
Okay.
photograph, I've watched this area for, well, good grief. Things don't happen fast in the Bigfoot realm or Sasquatch realm, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you may, it could be 40 years, between first and, but I've been out since, 2012, trying to just figure out this one area that I found those footprints in, that you've seen the photographs of them.
Yes.
And by gosh, I was looking for them to see if, because I was going to flash them up on the.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you had them handy.
Well, let me look real fast here. It's getting up with these. It's either behind me or maybe it's right up here. Hold on just a moment. Stay where you're at. Yeah, don't go away. Hey, guess what? That's not them. Let's see. Well, it's in the same kind of a flyer. It's just, let's see. But I'm going to be heading back there this weekend to do a little bit of camping with the family.
Oh, okay.
And, it's kind of crazy because I'll look for them in a minute.
Yeah.
But when I find them, I'll go, hey, here you go. But it's a nature preserve.
Okay.
And they have decided to have it open it to a limited amount of camping, sort of like a thing of, hey, we're going to try camping for a special group. It's limited. We're going to handpick who camps there. So we got drawn. So we're going to be in that area, and I'll be checking that out. I don't know. You find them one time, and then that's just me. I find them, and I'm looking for them. I mean, good grief, this has been going on in my life since 1974.
Yeah.
And I've only got a handful of things I can even mention. I've asked people around here, and they're ready to commit me to an institution, I think.
I think we've all gotten that.
And getting on property seems to be really, really hard. I don't know how it is in your guys' areas, but I was a former hunter safety instructor for the state. And one of the things that they meaning the other instructors or the head instructor would always say is just ask for permission, And if you're going to fish on somebody's land, give them some fish. If you're going to hunt deer, give them a little bit of deer. Close the gates if they're closed. Keep the gates open if they're, the typical thing. Oh, no, not here. There is no way. You ask about it, and if they don't run you off their land, they'll say, well, that's here for the family. We only let
Yeah.
family,
Right.
So can you imagine going up and saying, hey, I want to check the area out for a migration of a bipedal, yeah. I'd be
Well,
better off saying we're going to be making a movie, can we?
I'm glad you mentioned
know,
that because after I get to the other guys, I wanna mention something that I heard in an interview I did last night, and you guys will find quite interesting.
Hmm.
But anyway, Justin,
Yeah.
you got a good head on your shoulders for this kind of thing. What are your thoughts on the whole? What is it? Is it a migration thing, or is it just do they stay close to the area? What are the factors, so on and so forth?
Yes and yes. I think they have a prescribed territory for their clan,
Okay.
and they move within that territory. I wouldn't call it migration, more of nomadic movements, right? So they have
That's
their
actually a better
territory,
term.
but they will go where the food is, they'll go where the prey is, they'll go where they need to go within their territory to get the resources they need at that time.
Okay.
Now, that being said, the range, we're talking a massive range, right? So we're talking possibly hundreds of square miles. So it would appear to us to be a complete migration, but for them, it's just movement within their territory.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense for sure. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Like in your area, it might be
Oh,
elevation, high elevation to low elevation,
That's
different
right.
things like that. There's definitely a possibility as the weather turns.
I think that's definitely a possibility up here for sure. For sure. But all right, yeah, that makes sense. Joe, what are your thoughts on the whole deal I mentioned?
Well, honestly, I never gave it any thought
Really?
until 2007.
Okay.
It never even crossed my mind, but so I think I previously told you about my stepson's encounter that happened in Derry Township in 2007. It was on November 4th of 2000.
God, a long time ago. I think you told me and Gary when we interviewed you.
I
Didn't you, Gary?
I sent you photographs of the prints that I took years ago.
Yes, you did.
Had me on
Yeah.
for your other show, and so I still have a lot of those pictures. I only sent you a few of them. I could share more if anybody's interested. But anyway, we called Stan Gordon because living in Western Pennsylvania at the time, when you type in a name of somebody that researches, cryptid, paranormal, whatever, he's more of like UFO guy, but mostly he does do the Bigfoot reports as well.
Right.
Long story short, it happened at dusk. We had some family things to do. We went bowling, went out to eat. During dinner, I asked my stepson, like, what exactly went on here? And then as soon as we got home, which was like 10 minutes later, we called the Stan Gordon's hotline. So Stan Gordon came out. Well, he didn't come out. He sent two of his researchers out that night. And they came out and looked around and asked us not to go into the woods and whatnot. And then he came out the next day and did the interview with the kid. And he did all the, he did a walkthrough. He saw everything that we showed him back there, but we had a rain overnight, so some of the prints got destroyed. But I grabbed good shots of them beforehand. So, well, they didn't get really destroyed. They just couldn't cast them. They were just they were filled with water,
Right.
They weren't equipped at the time to deal with that. We have, I think, some new techniques have come around to help with that waterlogged trackway thing. But for back then, it was pretty much if you couldn't suck it out.
You couldn't cast it.
They just didn't bother. They did a few, but they couldn't get the good one.
Right.
Anyway, all that aside, after this whole thing was over, there was a distinctive footprint in that. And Stan, pretty much, I think it was that day or later that day or the next day, he emailed me a photograph of print that he had casted about a quarter mile away back in November of '84.
Okay.
So what we have here is either a resident or someone who's moving through roughly the same time of year every year. And it's pretty much common knowledge that everybody pretty much these days is familiar with the Chestnut Ridge by now. And they come through, I don't know how far up north they are. I know they're up in Cook Forest and the Allegheny National Forest. I don't know if it's them that's coming through or Jeremiah, these might be yours. I don't know.
You
But I
never
think
know.
they go down into West Virginia or maybe as far as into Kentucky that's Stan's theory. And I tend to agree with it years later. I kind of go with it, but yeah, they just move away from the heavy snow because it's hard to forage when there's 6 inches or 8 inches of snow on the ground or more. It just makes life more difficult. They just get away from the deep snow. That's my opinion, and the cold weather,
Right.
And there's plenty of caves between here and there, man.
Exactly.
You go down into the mountains of Virginia, of northeastern or northwestern Virginia, and into the eastern mountains of West Virginia, and that's just caves and rocks galore. It's like a condo for Sam Squanches,
Got him.
Well,
That's
how
my
many?
thought. You asked my thoughts. That's what I got.
No, I that's some good stuff. Yeah.
But Stan tended to agree that he thinks it's a migratory thing. They come through and they look for, by that time of year, they look for like defunct apple orchards, defunct melon crops, things like that, or corn that's dropped or left, whatever they can dig up. They follow the food south. So,
Right. Yeah, good stuff. John, you found him.
I found him. Yeah. Like, these have been all over the internet. I'm sure somebody's got them and said, don't let this happen to you, kind of a thing, And I wasn't looking when I found these. All right. I wasn't looking for this. Now, this is in a river bottom where it's, how can I describe? It's going down to a river bottom where it is gravel and clay.
Okay.
And at the time I weighed about 250 pounds, which I don't now. Anyway, now if you notice, I'll try and get it on there. The tape, hang on, there we go. Can you see it's probably about a ½ inch, if that, in the ground.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I see it perfectly.
Now I've got my heel lined up with it, and I wear a size 12.5, 13.
So you're looking at a 17-inch track?
Well, it looks closer to be, it's mushed up around the edge. Like I always say, like in Jurassic Park, when that T-Rex walked up on them, the people in the Jeeps in the rain, and he puts his foot down and it mushes up around the outside edge.
Yes.
Right, that's what I'm seeing basically around here. But from, I got to do this right, from one end to the other is close to 20 inches.
Oh, gee, that's big.
19. Now, all right, now that's with my foot for comparison. Now, here you go. Okay, I'm trying to get the flash off of it. Here, see if this will help any. If that, well, not really, did it? No. Okay. Yeah, well, maybe that'll do it. We'll figure it out. Anyway, that's the same track. All right, without my foot laying there. Now, can I tell you which is the front and which is the back? No, but it's pretty strange. These tracks were 5.5 feet from heel to toe, or from the end of one track to the other, and they were in a straight line. It wasn't splay footed, it was walking in a straight line. Now, here you go. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
Now that's in the vegetation. So
how many were there, John?
I found 3.
3. Okay.
3. I only photographed 2 because the other one was basically a waste of time. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe somebody that knows. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm just me, like everybody else. I ain't no expert, but I know it sure is strange when things like that happen. No, I found 3 total, and one was going down. I mean, I'm on a trail. I'm walking this trail in, and I find 2 of them, one up close and then one back behind me, like that. And then the next one is way out here, and it's 5.5 feet apart, and they're like in a line, like you see my fingers. But the third track is over. It's stepped over the trail, and you can see where it was like going down the hillside. Kind of slid a little bit, but as you got to realize this is like after, this is like at the end of the winter, the last winter thaw, and it might just freeze up a little bit, you know. And I was looking for a fishing hole. That's all I was doing. I was looking for a place to fish and come across those. But that's where I'll be this weekend. I'm going to go back there. And they said, oh, they're going to have, well, it's kind of crazy because when you go camp and enjoy yourself, you know. But they're going to have at this place, they're going to have fire building, you know. Here, it seems a little funny to me, you know, hunter safety instructor, and that's one of the things I did, but wilderness survival preparedness. But they're gonna have fire building, and then they said, bring your charcoal grills, and they're gonna give you stuff to make s'mores. Guess where this stuff for the s'mores is gonna go? Out on a trail, I think, somewhere. But then they're gonna have a night hike. And that's going to be interesting. I'm going to see if I can't bring up the back end of everything. But anyway, yeah, that's what's going on here. Anyhow.
Okay, yeah, that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely some good stuff. I got something. So last night I interviewed a gentleman, and he was next door neighbors to the gentleman, Gary and John, that we were talking about beforehand.
Yeah.
For you other guys, Gary and I interviewed a gentleman who was prior law enforcement, prior military, a lot of action goes on at his place, like a lot. And the peak of all this stuff was going on between 2011 and 2016. But it's still going on right now. But we interviewed his neighbor last night. And it was cool kind of hearing someone else's perspective that was in the area, you know. Everything lined up with what the other individual had told us, everything. But something he didn't tell us before, which I find very interesting, is that he said he came home from work one night and he sees a DEC truck parked across the road. Everyone's standing out in the driveway talking to these DEC guys. Well, this story was in all the papers up here then. It made it so big that DEC actually shows up and went for a walk out back, not with the guy I interviewed last night, but with the ex-cop. A bunch of them went out back into a really boggy area. Well, they heard something grunt and come walking towards them in the darkness. So what's one of the DEC guys do? Picks up a rock and throws it at this thing. So about 3-4 minutes later, as they're standing there, the rock comes back out whipping, comes right back out of the same spot. I don't know if it was the same rock or a different one, but it got thrown back at him. And from that point on, the gentleman we interviewed last night had no action on his side of the road. He lived across the street from the cop. Now the cop still has it going on to this day, but ever since the DEC was back there doing their little investigation and they threw the rock at this thing, all activity behind his house ceased.
Really?
Yeah, which to me, that I'm not jumping to a conclusion, but that we've talked about how smart these things are, you know. Maybe they knew damn well who the DEC was and what they were doing back there, you know, and that was their way of telling them to get the hell out.
Can't you just see a mama Sasquatch jumping on a juvenile, telling them, "Now, don't throw them rocks"?
Don't
You know what happens?
You know, we would be awful. You know, me and Justin's talked about it in the past, you know, more than once, and Jeremiah, you too. We would be awful arrogant to think that they're not that smart.
Oh, yes, I agree. We talked about, like you said, we've talked about it, and I think their intelligence is just, I think it's so, we can't even fathom it. You know, can't even fathom the intelligence level, you know, of these things. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I thought you guys would find that interesting. I mean, he never had action again after that incident, but it's still going on across the road, almost like these things had never they didn't want to cross to that side again because they were relating it. I'm just speculating, or maybe relating it to, everyone coming back there invading their territory, and they knew they were looking for them. But when you get some rock whipped back at you, that's probably your cue to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
I know I've had them thrown at me, and it's pack up my stuff and let's get out of here.
They're trying to communicate one way or another, but something that just because of what you said just a second ago got me thinking about something. If they are as intelligent as a lot of people say they are, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to go by that. My gosh, you'll read and people will say, "Oh my God, they're so intelligent. It's unbelievable how intelligent they are." I will probably take notice of that when someone says, "I saw one building a fire."
Okay.
See where I'm going? See?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, they're intelligent. Yeah, they got to be,
Yeah.
hide
Yeah.
and seek champions.
Question being though, do they need fire?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Just one of those things we just,
yeah,
part of it we don't get. We don't
My
know.
coffee mug says right there, undefeated.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Exactly. The guy I
do-
interviewed last night had a shirt on that said the same thing.
Yeah, you watch. There'll be somebody come up. Go, "Hey man, I saw him building a fire."
Yeah.
It'll happen now. Just because
Yeah,
somebody.
good job, John. You'll have something on Facebook tomorrow. Yeah, I saw one build a fire.
The most technology I've ever heard of them using was I've heard tell of them using logs
As
travel
tool.
down river with. But other than that, I haven't seen any use. I haven't even really, other than clubs and rocks.
Yeah,
That's about
I
it.
was fixing to say, if they went this long without fire, I don't see why they would, have a need for it now.
Personally, I think they dislike fire.
Yeah. Why?
I would have to say I agree with you, Gary.
Why would they need fire when they got us to build it? I mean,
True.
why? I mean, hey, we're going to go down and get meat that's already cooked in a dumpster.
It's true.
Right. You've heard of, you've heard of them dumpster dive. I don't know. Yeah, just different ones.
No, you're right.
Places,
You have.
Yeah.
You hear about that stuff all the time.
It's like a kid that wants to mooch off of you and stay with you. Oh yeah, man. I heard one the other day. He says, "Yeah." He's trying to tell his girlfriend. He says, "We got to go over to Dad's. He's got some really cool stuff over there, man. He's got like a washing machine and a refrigerator." And he goes right down the line. It's like, okay, he's getting a free ride. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Why would they?
Yeah.
We're feeding them. One way or another, they're getting fed.
Sure. But no, that's a good point, John. Good point. And another thing he told me, and maybe we can get on this and why this is speculation. The other part of the story he told me last night, there was a point where there was some tracks coming across his lawn. It was coming from the cop's house across the road, and there was a line, just a straight line of 15-inch tracks. And he had a metal birdhouse set up. The lattice to lead inside his yard where the birdhouse was broken. Okay. And the birdhouse was curled right over. Something had actually bent it. And I asked him how thick it was, and he said it was a solid aluminum or whatever, galvanized steel pole that was just bent, into an arch. And the next day, his girlfriend said, "I smell something rotting." And he said he didn't quite smell it at first, but he said finally he got a whiff of it. And he crawled underneath his porch where another piece of the porch or the lattice that runs under the porch had been inside the taller lattice had been broken. And he saw something with fur there. Red fur. Pulls it out, and it's a dead fox, and there was only half the fox there. almost like a big human like, and you could see a big human like, only much larger bite mark out of its neck. And like I said, only half the fox was left, and nothing was gone except for the internal organs. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Yes, we have coyotes up here. Yes, we have wolves. Yes, there's big cats. If now this is the big if another predator is to, or if a predator is to go after a smaller predator like a fox, wouldn't you think it would have taken it away and ate it?
When you say take it away and eating it, you mean
Instead of leaving it under someone's porch?
Oh. Yeah. Probably eat it on the run.
Or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
And this was after the guy across the road had a dead fisher put on his doorstep.
All right, now what kind of space does he have? What I guess what I'm asking is, okay, underneath the porch,
Yes.
what could fit underneath the porch? How small or how big would something
He
have
said
to
it was
be?
extremely tight. He could barely squeeze himself under there. He couldn't even get to the fox. He had to grab a long fishing net and pull it out like that because he didn't have the space. He was too big to crawl under there and do it. But something with an extremely long arm like a Sasquatch could easily reach in there behind the staircase and put that fox. Point being, I don't know if a Sasquatch left it, but we've all heard stories about stuff like that. And the guy across the road had a fisher or a weasel, something in that family.
I have fishers in my backyard.
What's that, Joe?
I have fishers in my backyard, and they are vicious devils, man.
Oh, we have them too. They're ferocious.
Like Tasmanian devils, dude. I saw one, or I didn't see one. I saw a video where one killed a fox.
Yeah,
It's
they're
on YouTube.
ferocious.
Just look up Fisher kills fox. It's quite violent. If you're not into that kind of stuff, do not.
Yeah, they can fight. They can fight. I had one. I was on watch. I was deer hunting, and I had my back against a tree, and one came down the trail, and I hopped up on the log. It was about 20 feet away from me, and it stood on two legs, and it curled its head over and just stared at me. It's letting me know, that's ballsy for an animal to do that.
You know what he was doing, don't you?
Telling me he wasn't scared.
He was contemplating whether he's going to rip your throat out or not.
Exactly. And I put
Like there's
yeah.
rabbits at Monty Python.
That's the reason I put the crosshairs right between his eyes, and I said, "Please, I don't want to shoot you." You
They
make a
don't
move.
call they don't call the fisher the North American honey badger for a reason.
Oh, they're ferocious. They're ferocious. I don't think people realize. So for something, and as far as that fisher that was left on his porch, it was just dead. It was just dead. There was no bite marks out of it or anything. It was on his front porch. So I don't know. Maybe we've all heard stories about these things leaving dead animals and stuff like that. Oh, there's Carter.
I had you know what a suet cage is for putting that bird further. Okay, I had a heavy one, and I had it pretty much chained with those links that screw together. You know the kind. All right, I had it held down to a wooden platform, and by gosh, something ripped that cage off, took the cage, took the connectors, the whole bit, and it ended up being a raccoon.
Yeah, that's what happened to ours last winter.
Yeah.
A raccoon got it.
Yeah, I mean, a raccoon will eat anything, and I'm not trying to lessen this whole thing,
No, I get it.
But it could be that, and it could be a dog, a wild dog,
Sure.
a band dog. You just got to take everything into consideration. It can't,
You do.
Yeah.
I need to interject 1 second because I wanted to show you guys something. Hopefully this will work. If not, then we'll try a different route. But I was referring to those pictures about migrating Sasquatch, how Stan Gordon's theory was that this was possibly the same Sasquatch roughly moving to the same area at the same time of year, 23 years later.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first photograph I'm going to show you would be the print, which is the kicking print. It's the best one I've ever photographed. And I'll show it to you. Hopefully this will show up on this camera. All right. So if it doesn't, just say no, I can't see anything because I'm not able to otherwise I don't know
Oh,
where
yeah.
the camera is.
Oh, I see it. Perfect, Joe.
Okay, so here's your main print, right?
Yep.
There's the big toe.
Yep.
Okay, over here is that's my ex-wife's boot print right there in the mud. I don't know. Can you see the boot print?
Yeah.
Vaguely. Yep.
Okay, so and then well, there's the shitty part about this picture is I have a better picture that's like up this direction is a perfect knuckle print in the ground. It had to go under a tree branch
Okay.
right here, and that's the pronounced large toe. Now
Yes.
this is the print that Stan took. See the pronounced large
Interesting.
toe.
Yeah.
And the other toes tend to trail off. Like here might be a pinky over here. I don't know if you guys can even see this one.
Oh, I can see it.
And
Yeah.
but they're almost exactly the same size. And this has a little bit of overflow here, but if you take this from the big toe down, there's a curve in this. And then in this, you can see the gentle curve.
Yes.
So that's what I know about migrating Sasquatches.
That's good
There's-
stuff.
And
Carter,
back in-
Carter,
back
are you
in
there,
the-
buddy?
Similar.
It was back.
I'm
in
not
the
here.
Apples.
I'm not here.
It was
You're not there?
apple tree apples.
I'm not here.
Okay. We were
Yeah,
kind of
the
we were
apples
talking
and,
about, you know,
something.
I opened it up by
I gotta
We're-
show you this down here.
on the
Like, get him.
topic of Sasquatch in an area for a certain amount of time and then taking off for another part of the year. What's been your experience with that?
Well, personally, I don't see that, but
Okay.
I have 4 and soon to be 5 habituation properties that I'm monitoring, and
Right.
they have activity year round with the
Yeah.
same ones. You
Okay.
know, anywhere from 3 to 5. I mean, they see the young ones. They, you know, in my mind, if they have a perfect habitat, food, water, shelter, protection, why leave? You know,
Yeah.
I understand weather patterns and things of that nature, but my people say they're here year round, and I've been to all the properties at different times of the year, except for this one I'm going to Friday and Saturday. First time I've been there, but they're year round, you know. And
Yeah.
since for me, if it's so hard to find protection and safety for your family,
Well, if the southern states, where are you located?
I'm in Liberty, Missouri, and but most of my research area is Missouri and one spot in Illinois. It's a little more temperate than, you know, upper Northwest or, you know,
Yeah.
Adirondacks or anything like that, you know, because I'm from Texas originally, and that's pretty temperate. You know, it's almost tropical, you know.
Right. Right.
Missouri, we run from 0 to 45, 50 degrees in the winter, you know, but it's just, with rare exception, it's just not brutal, you know, like Northwest, you know.
Yeah. And like,
Excuse me, Northeast, you know.
yeah, I was saying to these guys, the ones our main research area, it's weird because the ones here in the Adirondack, I'm right in the Adirondack St. Lawrence Valley line, you know, it seems like the ones we deal with most of the time, it's a family group and they'll leave in November, come back about March. And where they go, I don't know. But one of our other research areas is more into the St. Lawrence Valley. Okay. And they stick in that same area all year round.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't get quite as cold there. Like you were saying, it all depends, you know, it's a little more temperate than the Adirondack area,
Yeah.
you know.
And if you have a cave system, that is a fixed temperature below grade.
Which there is.
You're in the 50 to 70 degree range year round. You know?
Year round. Exactly.
And so why would you go anywhere?
Exactly.
Unless it's for breeding and, you know, mating purposes. Let's say you don't have, if they're, you know, savvy enough to realize that, you know, genetics plays a part in things, and I can't date my sister and have children with her. I need to go somewhere else. You know, so
Right.
maybe that might drive it, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a whole nother theory and explanation for that. Like they go to certain areas for mating and birthing, and then they go back. You know, Autumn Williams has a really good theory about that in her book. You know,
Oh, okay.
Enoch. It's a pretty good theory, but.
Yeah. I know that. I know that book. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I've
Yeah.
heard it's some good stuff. Yeah, that's some good points there, Carter.
But
Some
yeah,
good stuff.
nobody knows, so it's always fun to suppose, because
It is.
we don't know. But the only reason I state any of that is because my habituation folks who live with these beings for 5 to 30 years, generationally, grandma and grandpa move off, and the kids take it over, and then their kids take it over, and it stays in the family, and they're all brought up knowing and expecting to experience Sasquatch, and they do,
And they do.
yeah, and they're there all the time,
Interesting. It is. It's very, very interesting. John, you were about to say something before I interrupted you. What was-
Heck, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've
the
slept-
fish getting old, ain't it?
I've slept since then, man.
Yeah.
No, I was just mentioning just a second there about growing up around it, right? My grandparents, I can remember them now. They were, I don't know, he was born probably, my grandfather maybe, oh God, 18,
60s?
no, I'm old, but I ain't that old. But no, he was probably about 1889.
Okay.
In 1890, roughly. He told me he was too young for World War I, too old for World War II.
World War II. Okay.
And I don't know, you do some math and that don't fit, but they were from Kentucky. And I can remember my grandma sitting there. Of course, when you're 5 years old, you want to go watch Winky Dink or Hopalong Cassidy, on TV. Yeah. But she was sitting there talking, and I can remember her saying that a booger lived up the holler.
Really? You never told me that before.
I thought I had, yeah. But what am I going to do? Jump in a time machine and go, oh yeah, Jeremiah Fountain. I got to remember. I got to go back and ask my grandma. Yeah.
Well, if you got one, John, handy a time machine, feel free. And
I'm gonna make some money first. But yeah.
Before the show's done.
Yeah, there's a few things I'd like to change, but a couple of names anyhow. But no, I remember them talking about it, and but I wished I could remember more about that. I just know that they mentioned a booger living up the holler, and they had trouble with it. Oh, something about a garden, and it probably was a matter of they raised a garden and a booger lived up the holler, and it kept getting in the garden.
Kept getting in the garden.
Yeah, and that's about the most I could tell you. How big the booger was, I don't know. What did he look like? Who knows? I don't know. But that's just stories that you hear. I can remember, and they grew up with that. You see?
Yeah.
That's what kind of struck that. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I got slammed with 3 stories. I would go to Mississippi every year on vacation with my mom during summer vacation. I'd get the Honey Island swamp monster from my Uncle Jerome. I get the boogers from my Aunt Lois, and I get what's that thing the Choctaws believe in? I can't remember. I think
Shifter.
There's another creature down there, Champ. Down in Mississippi, like around the mound builder areas and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I got those stories as a kid, and those were from my, older relatives. So
yeah. I used to get them too from my grandparents, and I still remember it.
That Honey Island swamp monster, I was unnecessarily terrified of that thing. I don't know why. Because we drove through Honey Island to go to New Orleans, and my uncle would be like, "Those are the woods there. Keep your eyes peeled, boys."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're not good, we're going to put you out.
Yeah. This is where we drop you off right here.
Yeah. Drop you off. Roll that window up. Keep the window up. Yep.
Oh, no, wait. Nobody had air conditioning back then, man. That window wasn't going up in Mississippi. Or Louisiana, no. I'd have rode on the rear bumper if I had to.
Our air conditioning in our cars was 55 miles an hour with the windows down. That's air conditioning.
There you go.
Yeah.
But speaking of gardens, the place I'm going to go visit this weekend, they're relatives of another longtime witness of mine, and they built a greenhouse and it's, made of plastic. It's 40 by 20. So it's just made with, it's just frame with the plastic you could buy at Lowe's or whatever, just the real heavy duty plastic you just staple on and take off in the winter or whatever. And they had something was busting into the greenhouse at night and eating the tops off of radishes and strawberries.
Huh.
So they put up a motion light trying to figure out what it was, because they weren't aware of Sasquatch doing that on their property. They've heard stories all around them, but this was the first time they were aware that might be on their property. So the son goes out one night after the motion light goes on, has his gun with him. He runs out there, and long story short, a juvenile runs right by him. It brushes him as it runs by out of the door, front door. So I'm going to go spend the night in that greenhouse.
That's like tag, you're it. Yeah.
Yeah, it ran right by him. I mean, it touched him. He said, it
Could that
brushed
be
him.
like a counting coup thing?
Didn't have a gun,
yeah.
he had a gun, but he didn't have a camera. It happened too fast.
Yeah, you gonna catch something like that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna spend the night in that baby Saturday night. It's gonna be it's gonna be my Saturday Night Live.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let me ask you something, Carter. I know you said you have a lot of habituation areas. Do they have? We were talking about this before. You came on. A couple guys I've interviewed, make a long story short, over the years have had dead animals left on their stairs and behind their staircases, and two guys that live across the street from each other, where this family is located. You ever have to deal with anything like that?
You mean like gifting?
Yeah. I didn't know if that properly fits.
They get here in Missouri, we have a really big wood rats. They're bigger than the rats. They're about the size of a possum, really. They're big, nasty. They're about 13 to 16 inches with the tail.
That's big.
Like a neutrina? Maybe.
Well, not neutrina, but they're just like a big rat.
Okay.
We call them wood rats down here. They're just big, nasty rats, like the kind you see in New York City. So they'll have those wrapped in grass or with a couple of rocks and a dead rat left on the porch.
Yep.
So they get some gifting like that. I've got other folks that aren't habituation folks that have little mice wrapped in grass, 3 or 4 of them, especially when this woman was bitching and screaming at one, although she didn't see it, she knew it was listening, for tearing up her garden and taking her stuff. And so the next morning she was gifted a couple of mice and some rocks on her porch. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, because bitched out by a little old lady, and they know what that is. So they get gifted animals. I've got a guy right now I'm investigating here. It's just a regular sighting. He's being gifted animal bones, raccoon hand, just the skeletal remains.
I dealt with that in North Carolina. Yeah.
And he's still trying to figure it out. I've been out there several times. I got photos. I mean, it's really interesting, and a lot of glyphs, a lot of gifting, but a lot of glyphs on the ground, triangles and other things. They get into the really quantum and esoteric things, really.
Sure.
But he sent me one today of a hollowed out, looks like a cow bone. Now, in all honesty, it could be a coyote just coming by, but they're all left in the same spot on his property, on a certain side of his house where his son lives. And the son has seen the Sasquatch many times. He is not, the father and the mother have not seen it. He has seen it half a dozen times. He even drew a picture. I put it in my new book too. It's really interesting stuff. But
very cool.
The bones, and the whole center, all the marrow is gone, and it's full of dirt. And it had a little twig in one end, like a little twig was stuck in.
Yep.
And anybody that gets into gifting, they'll say, well, it's all about it's your interpretation, because a bone stuck in the ground doesn't necessarily mean one thing for one person, and something it's for whatever the situation is. And so I can't get any consensus of like what that means. Native American shamans, witches use, bones and
Bones,
stuff, magic and stuff, but they don't have that going on. But so they're getting a lot of odd things left at their house and some mental images as he sleeps, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But but the bones the gifting in bones is pretty routine.
It's interesting you mentioned the bones. Justin, John, you guys should probably remember this when we were with the other organization. When I took a trip to Maine, and the gentleman that I was on this research trip with had been finding bones all around his yard. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And heavy Sasquatch activity. And almost like like you said, Carter, they were leaving him these bones. So we split up one day on the property, and I had to do some business. So I turned around and started doing my business and on the moss, and I looked down and there's a bone. Well, sure enough, like you said, it was hollowed out and there were sticks in the middle of it, like something had used the sticks to push out the marrow.
Yeah. And
the teeth marks on this bone, we actually back when this happened, we sent the pictures to an anthropologist that we knew very well, and he said, don't send the bone quite yet, just send some pictures, I'll take a look. I'm overloaded with bones right now. If you knew how many bones I had in this lab, you'd understand.
Yeah.
We sent him the pictures, and he emailed us back and said, you have to send that bone immediately. And he said, just from analyzing the pictures, with the teeth, with the marks look like, was things he had seen in the past. Like it almost was like a cross between a giant human, Neanderthal teeth marks he had gotten out of other bones in the past, mixed with the teeth marks of a giant human. And I sent this bone to him in the mail, and it disappeared. Just
of course.
Gone. He never got it. Nothing. But interesting you mentioned that about the marrow being pushed out with the twigs, because it was the same thing with mine. Yep.
There you go.
What bone is that?
I don't know.
Oh.
I think it could possibly be a buffalo, but I found it the way it is, just the one bone.
Where'd you find that, John?
Out hiking one day, and it's dog is over here grunting at me. Yeah, it's not your bone, it's mine. But yeah, I think it's buffalo. I think, but nothing has got the marrow. Nothing's been in the end of it.
Yeah.
But pick that clean and come on, guys, that's big. Look, there, it's right next to my head.
That's big.
And it's right next to my fist here. All right. I think it's a buffalo. I think it is. But I don't know what part. But there is some. Well, I think there's some canine marking on it here. You can't really see it, probably.
No, I can see it, and I'm sure the road.
The road is that there? Oh, there you go. There you go. See it?
Oh yeah. It looks like the rodents got to it a little bit too.
Yeah. But you see the one that's right here that's coming down.
I see it.
And then there's a few more right in here.
Those are the ones that interest me, the ones you just pointed at.
Yeah, yeah. And so how wide is that? Okay, there's my fist. How wide is that? Okay, so I don't know, but when I hear some more on that side, and it's got it looks like it's coming off in layers. It's old enough,
It's old enough, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of them things. Hey, that's pretty interesting. I think I'll grab a hold of it and take it home with me.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things, But
sure,
excuse the light.
Sure.
But that's right alongside the cast I got there. So
this is the one he sent me today. You really can't see it. There's a twig in there. You can't see it. It's a stick. You really can't see it. It's not a good photo. But it's been dug out, and at the other end there's another stick. So something was in there. It could be an accident because nobody saw it, just appeared in his yard. It was in the same spot. So continuity is a big thing with
It's huge.
evidence, you know.
Yeah.
So these bones, these glyphs are all left within about a 5-foot circular area. It's just
Yeah.
kind of odd. So they picked that area, you know. Yes, a coyote or another predator could be walking by and happen to drop it, but the same spot. He's
Same
got
spot over and over.
3 or
Yeah.
4 bones and probably 8 or 9 different glyphs. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, someone's wanting a relationship here, you know, they're contacting
Yeah.
you, they're wanting, and he has been contacted, you know, mentally for 2 months straight, almost nightly.
Huh.
And he's been shown, let me see here, trying to think where it is. Let's see.
That's the kind of a thing where it's just odd enough to make you want to go, huh? You know, it.
This is what he was shown.
Oh.
He's going through space. He's kind of like just in bed, but he's seeing this, and it's going through space, and stars and planets going by. Then all of a sudden, he comes into this triangle, and it's Saturn, the Earth, and he thinks the moon. He only thinks it's Saturn because of the rings.
It sort of
Oh
looks
my
like
God.
SpongeBob.
A little
Could
bit.
be.
Yeah, a little bit.
But,
SpongeBob
so-
triangle pants. Yeah.
But he's been shown this, you know.
In
and
his
this
sleep,
guy,
you said, Carter?
huh?
It's coming to him in his sleep.
Yeah, 2 months
I
my
straight.
interviewed
gosh,
a guy
yeah.
that was going through the same thing in England, and he was getting shown things in his sleep, and he thinks it was by these things.
I've been shown things since my
Okay.
confirmation for me of a relationship contact in 2019 that continues to this day. And so I get shown things fairly often, you know. This guy, as far as vetting him, former government clearance, he what's the word? Sort of managed the a radar group.
Okay.
And his job was to, this involves like the Tic Tac stuff. So his job was to make sure that the settings on the computers in these control towers were not messed with, because there's different layers of things you can see on the computer screens with
Yeah.
what they have. And if you change the contrast or hue or saturation, I don't know, but you can change it. And there are other things going on in the same sky as you're looking at, but you just can't see it because they're kind of filtered out.
Right.
Yeah.
So his job was to go in there and make sure that those weren't tampered with. So what I'm saying is he had a government clearance, or did have, and he's still working for the government, but in a different capacity. So it's like, I'm not going to doubt this guy. You know what I mean? There's certain
Credibility.
okay, well, you know, my buddy told me about a guy who he knows, who knew his girlfriend, who knew, you know, five generations later, you're finally getting to,
Yeah.
you know, I heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy, you know, blah, blah, blah. But so this is the kind of guy you believe, and he and his wife have seen the gelatinous predator clear humanoid shape walking in the yard in broad daylight. Both they saw it from their deck, but in separate locations on the deck.
Okay.
So, well, and he's perplexed and actually concerned. He's like mentally like, I can't handle this shit. I got to know what this is. You know?
Yeah.
And so he's contacted a psychic. I have a psychic and a medium that I recommend, and he has used somebody in the past, but he is trying to figure out. He's troubled. So
Sure.
anybody hoaxing it, they're not going to go to that extreme. You know what I mean? He's like, he calls me constantly. We talk today. We talk whenever. I mean, whenever he calls me, I answer but my point is, I believe him, you know. So
Yeah.
I wish I could answer some of the questions, but I can tell him that you have something going on and they want to communicate with you, and for whatever reason.
For whatever reason. Yeah.
You may not know what the reason, you know, you may not know for quite a while, but it'll come to you. You know,
Right.
have you watched Sibylla Irwin's sketching encounters?
Yes.
Okay. Did you watch the most recent?
I don't think so.
Okay. The last 2 shows are my guy in Canada.
Okay.
We've been going through this shit for 40 freaking years.
Oh,
And so he's a recluse, and he's driven kind of nuts with the quantum paranormal shape-shifting manipulation of the portals and dimensions, you know,
Sure. Yeah.
vibrational frequency, altering that. So, and notes I took, I interviewed this guy for a year. I probably got 30 or 40 hours of recordings. She's got, you know, hours and hours and hours of notes. Everything he said to me and her was dead on to what he put in the video. You got to watch the last two. It's part 1 and part 2 in British Columbia, Vancouver. It's called Sketching Encounters, Sibylla Irwin.
Okay.
It's riveting stuff. You just have to have an open mind to, if you don't outright believe it is possible, at least consider it, you know, because,
Okay.
and he is affected by it. He started getting teary-eyed when he starts thinking about it. It ended a marriage. It ended 2 other long-term girlfriends. He just become a recluse, you know, and he experienced this stuff with his dad for a long time.
sounds
Yeah.
pretty demonic to me. It does.
Well, but he saw the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch were there. There's 2 of them. The main protagonist was one we call Zap. It's on the cover of my first book, and he saw them on routine basis. He saw several. There's 3 that he saw over a 20 to 25 year period routinely with his dad without. So what do you do when you hear that? You know, I mean, you know, when you get into all that esoteric activity, you know.
I'm like you guys. I've experienced, my views have changed so many times over the years because I've experienced so much weird, if you want to call it, you know, weird shit. So I don't count anything out. You can't.
I've seen one disappear in front of me. It was on a thermal camera, but you know, what do you do with that? You're looking at it. Right. I wasn't drunk or on drugs. I kind of wished I was at the time, but I wasn't. You know, I was leading an expedition for BFRO, and it came around a corner, and I'm watching on the thermal because I'm looking for a group that was lost. Walks around the corner, I'm going, and as soon as I saw it, poof, it just exploded. It vanished. Like
maybe it was the one that was drunk, or
it could have been.
Yeah.
So when you see something, and I'm a rational person, what do you know, you either believe me or you don't. You know, if you think, well, this guy's full of crap, he must be an old stoner or something, or must be a current stoner, whatever. But when you hear from people routinely, and not the same people, but different people that tell them the same story, but completely divergent people, they don't know each other, never heard of each other, aren't even aware that this is just going on with anybody else with them. So all of a sudden you got all this stuff. What do? You know?
Yeah.
You got to at least put it in your pipe and smoke it a little bit. You guess just
a little bit at least, couple tokes. Yeah. I mean, it's like I've interviewed 90% of the people I've talked to and interviewed. Nick and I were talking about this last night on the other show. You know, they, without even coaxing them on, they'll talk about lights they see in the sky before and after a Sasquatch encounter.
Yeah, orbs.
Yeah.
Or yes. I was never. I used to. I'm not gonna lie. I used to laugh at that stuff years back, but I know what I've seen. I've experienced it for myself. I have no frigging explanation for it, but I've experienced. Justin, let's hear your thoughts on all this. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, there's just a lot kind of going around, so it's kind of everything. Man, who knows where to start with it? Talking about, you know, gifting with the animals and the skulls, man, that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Across the globe, that's normal behavior. Now, as far as what it all means, I think that tends to be more depending on the region, the tribe, that kind of stuff. And the reason I mentioned that is like the natives I grew up with. One of their big things was monkey necklaces, right? So that was their main type of currency. Now, they didn't have any intrinsic value. It wasn't like 4 teeth equals this or 5 teeth equals that kind of thing. But it was a symbolizing of the stature of the person giving it to you, right? And so the greater the hunter was, the bigger these necklaces that they make, the more elaborate. And then the better artisan the wife was, the more elaborate was this theme. So they kind of held this value to do with things, or trading money in kind for barter, or different weapons or different skills. So I think we need to be careful not to assign a value to anything that's gifted, because it might be something that we can't even think of. It might be they heard you say something at some time, or interacted with an animal, or you left them food and they thought it. So
No, I get it. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Well, that's good because I didn't.
Yeah, I
The
can
sound was
totally
totally
hear.
gone.
Can I just
We
throw
lost
something
you.
out there real quick?
Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead,
know if
Joe.
you guys are familiar with the film guys, Seth Breedlove's thing, Small Town Monsters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of their more recent YouTube, one of their like hour-long shows they did was all about this, the quantum portals, glowing orbs and stuff. And it was really fascinating. It really was. It's because it's like kind of the latest information. It's really quite good. If you guys want to check it out, just Small Town Monsters. It's called something on the Ridge, something like that.
Okay. Check it out.
Yeah,
It's not the Alaskan
that's
thing.
not
It's not the
regional.
Alaskan thing, is it, Joe?
No, it has to do with Chestnut Ridge primarily.
Chestnut. Okay,
Okay.
chestnut. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But orbs, when I was having my seriously awesome connection and a gifting exchange, but really wasn't an exchange, down in Illinois in 2019, that night, 325 miles away, my wife sees an orb flying through our bedroom. She also sees it reflected in the mirror on our dresser. So she not only saw it for real in one place, but also saw it as a reflection. So it wasn't like her imagination, it was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this
There.
was within an hour of the time I was establishing a relationship with a clan in Illinois. Not a coincidence in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe in coincidences anyway. But
Yeah.
she sees that. So what do you do with that? I mean, it's just like,
Exactly. I get it.
it is what it is, you know.
It
And
is
it's
what
like,
it is.
she didn't really even want to believe that. I mean, she's somewhat of a sensitive. She senses and sees things. She's experienced, paranormal, ghostly type things in her life, past life where she met me. So she's aware of that, and she's a believer. So she embraces it. She's not one just to discard it because she can't explain it right away. So that was like the aha moment for me that, number one, I've established a relationship apparently, or they have established one with me. I don't know which it was. I think it was them.
Yeah.
But it's the orb, it's the energy level. And,
Yes.
since 2019, I've been making a list of all the weird stuff that goes on in our house. Some, but very little of it could be explainable, but a lot of it you can't. And it didn't start till this moment in 2019,
Oh, wow.
every year, the 1 year anniversary, I led the expedition in October 2019. I went back in 2020, 2021. I'm hoping to go back this year. Every year has been something. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Stacy and I had something like that happen in North Carolina. We were at our research spot in North Carolina, and we heard a bunch of them start walking out of the swamp towards us. Their eyes lit up. I could see fluorescent blue eyes, even a set of green. You had to shine a light in their eyes to get eye shine. That's a bunch of crap, because I've seen it pop on and go back out by themselves without a light in their eye. I guess that, everyone's opinions on that. That's just mine. I think they can do it at will. But anyway, after this experience, we were walking out down the railroad track, and an orb, a big yellow orb, orangish, probably 60 feet away and about 30 feet in the air, followed us all the way out. So my wife she has some abilities. Anyone that knows her knows that. And she started talking to this thing. And when she started communicating, the orb stopped and we did, she would start communicating. It would expand. You know what I mean, Carter? It would get bigger and then smaller. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, the thing is with orbs, they're an accepted phenomenon in ghost hunting and
Yes.
hauntings. They're accepted. It's like, that's evidence. We
Yes.
all believe that that's a constant.
It is.
Sasquatch people, I don't know. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I saw a photograph in Oregon, Lincoln City, Oregon, back in 2002, broad daylight. I got an excellent photograph of it.
Yeah, it's real stuff. So, well, I'll believe certain things, but I won't believe that. But, it's constant, regular, routine evidence in ghost hunting, in haunting. Yes. And so why is it any different? And it is for a lot of researchers and people. Well, I'll buy it there, but not here, because what's a ghost do? Well, it's not a ghost. Maybe they use an orb as an energy transfer, where they switch from one, dimension or one portal to another, or if they can change their vibrational frequency. That's the end result of them doing a transition. And that's how they can get from place to place. What better way to transform yourself and go to a dimension as an orb, your energy source, and it takes energy to do it.
Be all physics.
Yeah. So yeah, it is all physics. And science, quantum science will tell you that certain things are possible, and the only way that they're not possible is with more quantum science. You can't just say, well, that can't happen. You have to prove it. They've proven many other dimensions other than the ones we agree to, which is 4, maybe 5. They agree that other dimensions could exist and probably exist, and they use it with quantum math. Any suppositions they make, they use quantum, and the only way that they'll take any kind of debate against their findings is with more quantum evidence to disprove what they came up with. Otherwise, you can't just say, well, that's baloney, because Einstein didn't say that. Well, that's not Einstein. This is 50 years later, 60 years, 100 years later. So it's fascinating. It's really cool.
It's fascinating subject. But yeah, guys, I hate to do this, but we've been on an hour and a half now. But I'm glad we got the show cranking again. And for all you viewers out there, what I want to start doing, me and the guys here will start. If you want to ask before each show, I'll announce each show on the group page and on Facebook. And want us to discuss on the show, we can do that for you. So don't be afraid to communicate with us. Good to see you guys again. And yeah, we will be back in some point next week. I got to figure out a time with the guys here, and we'll be back. And, hopefully we can answer some. All right, have a good night, fellas.
All right, see you guys.
Take care, and thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Hey, John.